Welcome. It is Titans Uncovered with your boy Chev at Chev90 at Two Guys One Pod FF on all social media platforms. I am the legendary ball knower, your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster. You can say I know a lot, but you can't say I don't know ball. So, with that, we're back from a brief hiatus. I had to step away last week, was getting some things in order, some life changes, all positive, by the way, in case you were wondering. But you're not here to hear me talk about me. You're here to hear me talk about how awful my team is. Uh, let's get to it. So, first things first, we missed the Commanders game. That was an absolute bloodbath. They decided that it was a good move to just run it right at Big Jeff and T Sweat, who the week prior I just said T Sweat's going to be a future All-Pro. Well, we're back to it this week. Guess what? We held the Jags to 70 yards rushing while rushing for 126 yards. Okay, running the ball only 13 times is never going to be a recipe for victory. Okay, I'm sure Jeff Fisher was somewhere in his palatial estate after the loss to the Commanders, and he was rolling around in all of his stolen money and valor as a legendary NFL coach. We don't pass out the title of legendary just all willy-nilly, so Jeff Fisher, you and your 7-9 BS can go on somewhere else. Anywho, we were back to business last week as far as the run defense goes, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for like little nuggets of hope that can give me something to hold on to enjoy, to watch for 3 hours on Sunday afternoon where I could be doing other stuff. But I watch the Titans, and I bring this stuff to you because, hey, I mean, who else is going to do it? I mean, I'm going to have some schlap talking about the Titans better than me, the legendary ball knower. Does he have legendary ball knowledge? Probably not. So, with that being said, we lost to the Jaguars. Just to recap things, that one hurt. Coming off the loss to the Commanders also, that hurt. That both games, I feel like we went in and I won't say that we weren't prepared to play, but we weren't prepared to execute. And that is something that to me is almost more disappointing. It's like not being prepared to execute, right? Will Levis, I'll say this. Will Levis was against the Commanders. He showed me some things that had me believing that we would be able to hang our hat on Will Levis in 2025 and draft a guy like Kelvin Banks from the University of Texas, or go and get Will Campbell so that we could move J.C. Latham back to right tackle, even though he was a left tackle coming out of IMG Academy, and he was moved to the right side and flourished on the right side and dominated on the right side because he's a freak athlete who squats 900 pounds and benches 550 pounds and has 36-inch arms, or whatever the case may be. The problem here is right now we don't have a tenable situation on the left side, on the right side of the line. Peter Skoronski's been decent. JC has had a few growing pains. Quisenberry is pretty good. The way that you can tell that this line is well coached, but we just lack talent. You'll hear people say all the time, it's about the Jimmies and Joes, not the X's and O's. And only legendary ball knower and coach, future Hall of Fame coach, Bill Callahan, can only do so much with Jalen Duncan and the likes at right tackle. That's a position that we're just going to have to address, and hopefully it gets addressed in the draft, since it seems as though we're not going to be able to get Will Levis. We're not going to be able to get him out of here. All right, we're going to be stuck with him, and we're putting all our eggs in the 2026 basket. I don't believe at this point that we're going to be able to get anything positive as a franchise quarterback out of Will Levis after seeing some signs in Houston and seeing, in catch-up mode against the Commanders, just what I saw from him last week. Now, just to throw a few things out there, Will Levis had a 72.6% completion percentage versus split safeties, middle of the field open, basically cover two defenses, which the Jags ran at the highest rate in the NFL. So they run man and they run cover two at the highest rate in the NFL. And I feel like that should make it pretty simple for a quarterback, but it just wasn't. And we didn't execute. And the reason I say that we didn't execute is because of some crucial points in the game. Nick Westbrook-Akine dropped a game-winning touchdown. Now, you will not find a bigger fan. Maybe shout out to one of my dearest friends, a brother of mine who helps me get prepared for this podcast every week, and Emmett Thomas. He might be the only bigger Nick Westbrook-Akine fan than me. However, he dropped a game-winning touchdown. Back of the end zone, back pylon, back right, drops the game-winning touchdown. The play before that, Calvin Ridley goes out of bounds. We had another red zone opportunity where we chose to go for it, which, I mean, you're 3-9 at that point. Why wouldn't you go for it? I mean, duh. So he misses, I believe, he missed Calvin Ridley in the front of the end zone while opting for Chigakonkwo in the back of the end zone, and it wasn't a very good throw. So we ended up missing there. That being said, man, I'm not very encouraged by what's going to take place this week. And we do have a traditional rivalry with the Cincinnati Bengals. It's great because, you know, this is the high-flying, everybody's darling team. You've got Joe Burrow. Going back to the 2021 AFC divisional game where they had to come to Nashville and Joe Burrow put on not the first signs, but the first signs that he was going to be an elite playoff quarterback and not a guy who you just could count on in the regular season. We sacked him 9 times. It was a knockdown, drag-out fight. If you recall, Ryan Tannehill threw 3 picks in that game, and he basically cost us the game by throwing into triple coverage to Nick Westbrook-Akine when not Austin Hooper, who was our tight end. Anthony Ferkser was wide open on a drag underneath. He started the game off by throwing a pick into double coverage to Julio Jones that Jesse Bates picked off. All that to say, this is a game that has a little bit more bite to it than people would like to give it credit for. I think in the next year, 2022, after we had traded A.J. Brown, which, by the way, A.J. Brown should have had 260 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you don't believe me, go back and watch that game. I mean, if you have an infinite amount of time to kill, go back and watch the Titans-Bengals playoff game from 2020, early 2022, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. A.J. Brown should have had a legacy game. He finished with 4 for 142 and a touchdown. He should have had 7 for 250 and 3 touchdowns. It was, or at least 2. That being said, this is a game that most people won't appreciate as a Titans fan, you understand this is going to be, it's usually very physical. They bring their run game. The run game travels. And they bring their hard hats and lunch pails. Now, with the changes that they've made, the Bengals, I would say that it's a little bit more likely that this game takes more of an air-based attack. They do have space back, and my 2024 Kyron Williams come out of nowhere to win people leagues. My favorite player to lead that charge in Chase Brown. However, he's handling workhorse volume, but when you talk about workhorses, it's a guy who sets the temperature in the room. He's the thermostat, not the thermometer in the room. Shout out to the guys on the Dynasty Pulse where I dropped that. They were like, oh, that's a Jalen Hurtsism. It's like, nah, that's a legendary ball knowerism, baby. Actually, it goes back to one of my bosses a long time ago. It said, hey, when you're interacting with our customers, you've got to be a thermostat, not a thermometer. And I don't think I don't think Chase Brown is the type of back that is a thermostat. I think he's more of a thermometer. If there are lanes being opened up, he can operate. If if there's opportunities in the passing game versus our linebacking core, a week after Kenneth Murray played one of the best games I had seen him play as a professional, he was nowhere to be found on the screen against the Commanders. Like I said, they decided it was the plus money move to run the ball right at Big Jeff and T Sweat. And that triangle, it's just a circle. A circle. Anyway, they decided it was a plus money move to just run the ball right up the gut. And that was a great day for Brian Robinson. Our defense gave up over 267 yards rushing. Something got fixed in the formula going into last week as we held the Jags to 70. Held Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby to 70 yards rushing. We did give up, I believe, our 19th score to a running back over the course of the season. That's not great, but a lot of it has to do with short fields and putting teams in position to where they could run the ball in, or they just have too many options to where you can't say, hey, we'll just take this one thing away. So moving into it, though, like I said, I've gotten into the history of the Bengals, the recent history of Bengals and Titans. These are old rivals from the black and blue, not AFC North, AFC Central division. Back in the day, it used to just be this, and this, I say back in the day, it's like early 2000s when I was in high school, like early, like that, if that gives you any idea. I mean, if the gray doesn't give it away, that should. But yeah, I think that this game is going to take the temperature. It's going to be a take your temperature kind of game. And I don't think Chase Brown is the type of back that Joe Mixon was, where he's a thermostat. He's going to set the temperature of the game. Like, hey, we're getting real physical right up here and through the line of scrimmage. And if you want to tackle me, you better put some rocks in your britches because you're not heavy enough. I don't think Chase Brown can do that. I do think that he could break the game open with a long run. Obviously, the Bengals have two of the best receivers in the game in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow's playing quarterback at arguably the best. Well, not arguably. He's been probably behind Lamar the best quarterback in the NFL this season. I know people are going to say, how can you, JC, you said you're a legendary ball knower. How could you dare say that Joe Burrow's playing better than Josh Allen? How could you say that? And my answer would be, buddy, cut the film on. Joe Burrow is dicing people up. He's manipulating the pocket at an elite level. He's doing things, and what he is doing to keep this team in games with the defense that they've decided to field in 2024 is criminal. Now, they do have, switching gears quickly, they do have Trey Hendrickson, who's been, an absolute unit. He's leading the league in sacks. He doesn't wear gloves. He wears long sleeves. Doesn't really look like he's jacked or anything. He just understands leverage and how to rush the passer. And when you have somebody like that, it's a threat. So I'm hoping that he doesn't completely wreck the game plan. I'm honestly hoping that we, as in the Titans, just kind of run the ball and keep the game out of his hands. Because if it gets broken open by a sack or some sort of play in the passing game where Trey Hendrickson can affect the game, I will be mentally unwell. I will. I'm so sick of watching Jalen Duncan or whatever the turnstile is at right tackle, Nicholas Monfrere Petite, whatever. I'm so sick of that. And it's frustrating. It's very frustrating to know that you have someone as tenured and as experienced and as wonderful at coaching offensive line with the depth and breadth of knowledge of a Bill Callahan, and we can't get that right over there still. So hopefully we can keep him under wraps. The main thing is we need to go back to trying to establish the run and minimizing Will Levis. And I feel like we're going to be here every week. You're going to hear me say that every week. If you tune into Titans Uncovered, guess what? You're probably going to hear me talk about how much I don't want Will Levis doing stuff. And does that hamper the offense some? Probably. Yeah. I mean, so I have grown so frustrated by the memeing Mayo madman that I'd be cool just running the flex bone. But then again, if he had to pitch the ball, I'm pretty sure he might just pitch it to the other team. So I don't really know. I don't know at this point. You know what I know? It's that I don't know. That's called an unknown unknown. It's a known unknown, rather. 3-6, shout out to 3-6 Mafia, by the way, for the album Most Known Unknowns. So those are just kind of a couple of my just ramblings and thoughts as far as how the game's gonna go. Going back to a few of the storylines from week 14 and week 15, the Calvin Ridley revenge game did not come to fruition. I mean, he got 10 targets, but he didn't really turn it into anything nuclear. I think that this week it has potential to do that, but that again would require Will Levis to act like he has a brain, and I'm not sure that he does. You can't figure out if it's man or if it's too high. Like, they don't play cover 2 man at a great. I'm getting beside myself. All right, let's stay focused. You're gonna have Jarvis Brownlee probably matched up on T. Higgins. Okay. Let's get some help over there. I love Jarvis. I love his competitive nature. I love that he's probably going to be in T's face trying to disrupt routes. I don't think this is the one, though. The problem is you're going to have Cheeto one-on-one with Jamar, and that's not good for anybody. Jamar Chase is on Triple Crown watch, if you didn't know. He's leading the league in receptions. The Triple Crown, for those of you who don't know, is receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns in a single year. It's only been done, I want to say, 12 times, with the last being Cooper Kupp in 2021, and that was widely regarded as one of the best fantasy seasons that we've ever seen. And Jamar Chase is already on pace. I believe he's got 93 receptions for 1,300 yards and 14 or 15 touchdowns to date. We, the Titans, have been very stingy against opposing receivers. However, Jamar is a different animal. Excuse me. Pardon me. It just is what it is, man. Jamar is a different cat. No, pardon. I didn't even mean to make a Bengals pun there, but yeah, Jamar's a different animal. I just, you got to figure out where you want your help to come. If we're going to leave Jarvis over there one-on-one with T, especially in a game where T is returning to the area that he is from, and we're getting into the Bengals have got to have it, and you saw them just lament over and over again how much they all want T to be there. Joe Burrow saying that he'll do whatever to make it to where T is back next year. Like, that's their guy. So Jarvis, we better have our boots. Hey, get your cleats laced up tight, because they're coming to T. Higgins, and they're gonna target him a lot. Targets for T. That's the theme for Sunday. Targets for T. He's gonna get quite a few targets. And Jarvis, I know you're a competitor. I know you're a monster. You have a long career ahead of you. But if you're not laced up and locked in, this is not going to go well. Okay. Like I said, going back to the original point, I don't think that Chase is a back that sets the temperature as a thermostat would. I think that if they're able to get Chase going and if they're able to get T going, that's more of a function of the offense. However, I think that more than anything, it's it's going to be more on the shoulders of Joe Burrow and his MVP caliber performance so far. And that's pretty much the keys to the game defensively. I would love to say that we're going to get. I don't think they have anybody. Alex Kappa's not going to be able to do much with Jeff Simmons. I don't think that their interior offensive line is something that presents much of a challenge for T'Vondre Sweat or Jeff Simmons. Alex Kappa is their best interior offensive lineman. Tackle-wise, if Orlando Brown plays, you could have some sort of trepidation about Arden Key, but with the depth that we present up there, you could disrupt the timing of Joe Burrow if we're working in concert and getting a push up the middle. That's the thing that pocket quarterbacks hate the most. The problem is Burrow is to borrow a phrase from Mike Tomlin, he just slithers around in the pocket and he makes himself very elusive for a guy that you don't think about as elusive. But he has a 47-yard rushing touchdown. It's not sneaky athleticism. He's just athletic to go along with being one of the best quarterbacks in the game. I think that one of the keys for me is trying to figure out what we're going to do, the identity that you want to establish. Obviously, Tony Pollard is a key piece of that identity. He's almost 900 yards rushing now. If he hadn't crossed that platform or that barrier already, on pace for back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, but he hadn't practiced all week. And that's to me, that's something that bears noting. We did see him go out and handle 31 touches for 154 yards against the Patriots early in the season without practicing. And it might just be that's his maintenance routine throughout the week so that he's ready to go on Sunday. I mean, newsflash, playing running back in the NFL is hard. Who knew? Well, everybody knows at this point. But the reports of his demise were greatly exaggerated, which kind of leads me into my next point. I need to know what the plan is with Tyjae Spears. Going into this season, we thought that Tyjae Spears, Tony Pollard were going to be a 1A, 1B. In a lot of best ball drafts, I went ahead and I placed my bets on Tyjae Spears. Obviously, that was not a winning proposition. I don't think that by any stretch of the imagination, it's lived up to the expectations he probably had for himself. As someone who was, my nose is running for whatever reason, probably because I get sick of talking about Will Levis not being good on a regular basis. But all that being said, the problem I have is that we're not being effective in utilizing one of the most dynamic weapons in the NFL. You can't convince me otherwise. You can't. I'm sorry. There's no way that you're going to be able to tell me, hey, I think that Tyjae Spears is just a space back, a compliment. If he's a compliment, a guy who played as many snaps as Derrick Henry last year, you've got to figure out a way to get him the ball. These are things that, as much as I believe in the offense that Brian Callahan's brought from Cincinnati to Nashville, as much as I believe in that, I don't feel like we've gotten the most out of our pieces. And that could be a function of the offensive line, could be the inability to sustain drives. It could be Will Levis. It could have, would have, should have. We've got to figure out a way to evaluate some of our best players moving forward into 2025. Obviously, Tyjae is a part of the plan for 2025 and potentially 2026 because of his contract, if nothing else. But that shouldn't be the onus with which that you're trying to get him the ball. Where you need him to get the ball is like we need him in space. We need him carrying the ball on outside zones. We need him carrying the ball on gap runs outside the numbers. We need all that. And we need it in the worst way because, you want to sustain Tony Pollard because he is a quintessential 3-down back. They both are. Like, Brian Callahan wasn't lying when he said that they're both 3-down backs. They're both starters, starter caliber players. However, you need to establish a rhythm with them. And I think that kind of settles a team in when you're trying to win a football game. It's much easier to come out, and I know people say pass the lead, run to win. Getting Will Levis into a rhythm is about like trying to herd a bunch of cats in a room full of rocking chairs. You can do it, but it's going to take you a long time, and I don't even know if it's worth it, to be honest with you. So with that being said, it's one of those things where I'm not sure that that's the most fruitful endeavor when we're talking about how to get this team to play coherent, winning football. And the trouble that I have is more so along the lines of, what identity do you want to establish? Like, you hear people, if you've watched the AFC North version of Hard Knocks, there are teams like the Steelers and the Ravens. The Ravens were on bye this past episode, so we didn't get a whole lot from them. But the Browns, you hear Shelby Harris say, guys, what you're putting on tape now is basically your audition for who's going to be here next year. So we need to start finding out who's going to be here next year, who wants to be here next year. And part of that falls on the coaching staff to figure out, hey, here's what we did. Here's what we do. Some self-scouting. Okay. Figure out what Will Levis does great, what he's going to struggle with. And I'm sure that I'm sure that they've seen, because listen, I don't claim to watch near as much film as an NFL coach. If you know anything about what their lives are like during the season, it's an actual hellscape. So I don't pretend like I'm watching as much film, but you can see certain things, like him trying to throw to the left outside the numbers. It's not as accurate as you would like for it to be. Him dissecting coverages pre-snap. Like, let's try to get away from that. Let's try to get him into as many 3rd and 4s and 2nd and 6s, which are downs that are advantageous for the offense, to where you're less predictable and defenses can't really cut off one side of the field to try to make him have to make a rushed or ill-advised decision. But yeah, I mean, the keys to the game, to steal another Mike Tomlinism. God, if you haven't watched Hard Knocks, I can't tell you enough how good this Hard Knocks is and how good Mike Tomlin is. Mike Tomlin is bringing the Mike Tomlinisms. We have to establish a relationship with Chase Brown. We've got to get him under control, because if we don't, and you're talking about trying to put 8 in the box and leaving Jamar Chase and T. Higgins one-on-one, this is going to go very poorly, very quickly. That's all. That's one thing I know for sure. So establishing a relationship with Chase Brown in your front seven. Secondly, Jarvis Brownlee, like I said, you got to strap it up, man. You're probably going to have T one-on-one, and you've got to win, or at least make it difficult. If he's going to get to 100 yards, it's got to take him 12 targets. And I think that that's honestly a recipe for more success for the Titans than anything. If they're going to have to volume their way into 12 targets for T. Higgins, 9 for Jamar Chase, Jamar goes 8 for 90 or 8 for 100 and maybe a touchdown, you give yourself a chance. What can't happen is what Jamar Chase did on Monday night, where he goes 14 for 177 and 2 touchdowns. You've got to limit the explosive plays. I know that sounds like Captain Obvious stuff, but you've got to limit the explosive plays. You can't have Jamar Chase running wild in the secondary. You've got to limit them. You've got to limit them to 3rd and long situations. And Burrow's good enough to convert those. So there's no there's no ifs, ands, or buts about how good Joe Burrow and this offense is. The problem, what you have to do is you have to get him off schedule, because no matter how good a quarterback is, 3rd and 9 is 3rd and 9. And if we can keep them in those situations by establishing a relationship with Chase Brown and holding him under wraps, like I said, we held Joe Mixon to 1.6 a carry. We held Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne to 70 yards rushing. The whole deal with the whole deal with the Commanders, and we got to throw the baby out with the bathwater as far as that goes, because it's just not that's not something that we could bank on. That's not bankable. You know, them rushing for 267 yards. Hey, everybody has bad days at the office. I'm sure you do too. So we'll throw that one out. And offensively, limit Will Levis's mistakes. I would love to see a more. I mean, we were at, I believe, 32. Give me 1 second to get that information back here again, if it will cooperate with me. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So last week you had 27, or excuse me, you had 32 attempts for Will Levis, uh, 30 rushes. So I love that ratio, and I love the fact that we're able to run for 126 yards. The problem is that we couldn't convert in the red zone, and Will Levis wasn't sharp enough. And like I said, in the moments where we needed to execute in the most critical of fashions, we didn't. Calvin Ridley on a 3rd down has 1st down yardage, runs out of bounds. And then on the 4th down, Nick Westbrook-Akine drops a touchdown, the back pylon, back right of the end zone. So I'm okay. I'm okay, honestly, if where the run pass ratio stays kind of where it is. I would love to see us lean more on, if you're gonna throw it more, throw it to Tajay Spears. Please. Throw it to Tajay Spears. Throw it to Chig Okonkwo, who's a 95th percentile athlete at the tight end position. He runs a 4.52. He's got a 70-yard. You've seen what he can do after the catch. Let's make it easy. Do the things that will ultimately lead you to being an advantageous situation. So, two of the keys for me, and I'll tell you this, and we'll go ahead and get out of here. Two of the keys for me: being able to keep the Bengals in 3rd and long yardage situations, win 1st down, win 3rd down, 3rd and 8 or more for the Bengals. Second in winning 1st down, second and 8, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 7. 2nd and 7 is about the cutoff for a guy like Joe Burrow. If it's 2nd and 7, he can still get the ball to Chase Brown and get you to 3rd and 2. He can still get it to T or Jamar on an end breaker on a slant real quick, and pick up a cheap 1st down, because you're going off tendency, and he throws like an RPO type look. And then on the other end, because we don't have a Joe Burrow, being able to minimize the opportunities for Will Levis to lose you the game. It's that simple. I believe the game has a 46-point over under, 46.5, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like, and I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure, but I feel like this is a game that goes under the total, and the Bengals win. So again, not financial advice, but we need I don't necessarily want to win. Yeah, 46.5, Bengals are favored by 5. I think that the Titans could cover that number. I'm no longer confident every time. Every time I've talked about the keys to the game and what I think will happen, it has not happened. But the biggest thing is keeping the Bengals in 3rd and long situations, giving us opportunities to hit Burrow and potentially get him off his game. And then the game comes down to I know we're pretty much going to try to double Jamar. It comes down to Jarvis Brownlee being really physical and disrupting the rhythm of T. Higgins. So with that being said, the legendary ball knower just dropped off the Week 15 Titans breakdown for you. Please download, like, follow, subscribe. I think that more than anything, I'm enjoying doing this. This is somewhat new to me as far as, long form, just talking for 36 minutes and counting at this point, or 35 minutes and counting at this point. But I am the legendary ball knower, aka your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster. I'm at Chev90 on X. You can follow the show. We drop episodes daily. 2 Guys, 1 Pod FF on all social media platforms and on Blue Sky. And I am on the Dynasty Pulse Thursday nights at 8 p.m., followed by the Extra Point? Yeah, the Extra Point on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. I also co-host with Brennan Booth, a.k.a. Jameer Biggs, Big Boned FFB, on the platform formerly known as Twitter on Friday nights, Player Profiler, News Desk Today. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. But yeah, thank you if you hung out for this long. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Please leave comments. Tell me where I was right. Tell me where I was wrong. Like I said, you can tell me I'm a lot of things, but you can't tell me I'm not a legendary ball knower. Hey, good luck this week. Go Titans. Y'all take care.